It all started with one of Nobita's strange achievements. After 10 long years of trying and failing, he finally managed to win a game once. Just once. Tears welled up in his eyes as he held the victory in his hands, thinking, this proves hard work really does pay off. Overcome with excitement, he immediately wanted to brag about it to everyone. But before he could even leave the room, his mother called from the kitchen, asking him to fetch her seal from the drawer in the back. Of course, Nobita tried to dodge the chore, already planning to show off to Shizuka first and deal with his mom later, with a single scolding shout from her. However, Nobita bolted out of the house, leaving Doraemon to face the responsibility. Doraemon sighed, muttering, honestly, Nobita never changes. He decided to solve the problem using one of his futuristic gadgets. Reaching into his pouch, Doraemon pulled out the character creation egg. With a sharp crack against the table, the egg split open and released a tiny figure, a miniature explorer, no bigger than Nobita's palm. Perfect, Doraemon said. This little guy can find the seal for mom. Sure enough, the tiny explorer darted around with incredible agility, navigating shelves and drawers with the precision of a trained adventurer. Within moments, he returned triumphantly holding the seal. Mission complete. And just like that, the little character disappeared into thin air. Doraemon clapped his paws together, impressed. This gadget really works wonders. But Nobita's excitement only grew. The moment he saw the egg in action, he thought, if mom got help, why can't I? Ignoring Doraemon's warning, he cracked open another egg. Out popped a legendary thief none other than Lupin the master burglar. Nobita's plan was simple. He just wanted to get back one of his toys. Yet Lupin was no ordinary helper. Even as a thief conjured from an egg, he insisted on making his presence known in dramatic fashion. He scribbled a note declaring that he would steal the toy back at exactly 2:00 the afternoon. A gentleman thief must always announce his crime in advance, he said proudly, tipping his hat. By the time Nobita arrived at the vacant lot to deliver the letter, Jian and Suneo were already there. Jian scoffed as he read it aloud. Lupin, please. Like we'd ever fall for that. They shoved the toy into a doghouse, thinking that would keep it safe. When that seemed too easy, they hid it in the fridge. Still too simpler. Finally, they decided to give it to a policeman for safekeeping. But as soon as they handed it over, the policeman's grin turned sly. With a twirl of his mustache, he pulled off his disguise. It was Lupin all along. He vanished into the distance with Nobita's toy in hand, leaving Jian and Suneo dumbfounded. Nobita ran home with his toy, heart pounding, planning to brag to Shizuka about his victory. But Jian and Suneo cornered him before he could get far. Panic surged through Nobita's chest. His hands shook as he reached for another egg. This time, he cracked it open, and out emerged a full-fledged superhero. The superhero stood tall, glowing with power. Tell me your wish, he said in a booming voice, and I will make it come true. Without hesitation, Nobita pointed at the bullies. Protect me from them. In the blink of an eye, Jian and Suneo were lifted high into the air. The superhero whisked them around the planet, showing them the world at terrifying speed until their faces turned green with fear. When they were finally dropped back on solid ground, both were so shaken they ran off without a word. Nobita beamed with pride. Finally, I can go see Shizuka in peace. But little did he know, the superhero had his own condition. I will only disappear once Shizuka's cake is perfectly baked, it declared. And so, what was meant to be a simple visit turned into yet another exhausting day. As the sun dipped lower, Nobita trudged home, exhausted. What was supposed to be a fun day with Shizuka turned into yet another disaster thanks to the superhero who refused to vanish until her cake succeeded. By nightfall, Nobita sat slumped at his desk, scolded again by his mother for wasting time. His father, sitting nearby, could only sigh. It seemed that no matter what, Nobita always got caught in trouble when using Doraemon's gadgets. But the next morning, things took an unexpected turn. Nobita leaned against the window, staring at the distant mountains. The horizon, he whispered. Why can't I see it from here? His voice carried a strange longing. His mother didn't understand, and Doraemon only chuckled. Don't worry, Doraemon said, pulling something shiny from his pouch. It was a roll of tape, no ordinary tape, but the horizon tape. If you can't find the horizon, let's make one ourselves. They stretched the tape across the room. The moment the two ends stuck together, a glowing path appeared, curving into infinity. Doraemon waved proudly. There you go, a horizon of your very own. Nobita's eyes widened. Without thinking, he scrambled onto the glowing pathway, racing forward with his arms stretched wide. Wind rushed past him, carrying him into an endless, boundless world. The flat strip of light extended forever, a road that shimmered between sky and sea. Nobita laughed out loud, his earlier frustrations forgotten. This is incredible, he shouted. I have to show my friends. One by one, his friends joined him on the endless horizon. Jian kicked the soccer ball with thunderous force, and it rolled forever across the shining ground. Sunia skated on rollerblades, performing tricks as though the horizon itself were his stage. Shizuka twirled gracefully, her laughter echoing in the air. Even Doraemon couldn't resist riding a toy camel conjured from his pouch. Together, they all explored the infinite road, running and playing without disturbing anyone in the real world. For once, Nobita felt like he belonged. But joy never lasts long for Nobita. As night fell, Shizuka asked if she could borrow the horizon tape for herself. Doraemon, being ever generous, agreed. Soon after, Nobita's mother stormed into the room, scolding him for ignoring his homework again. Nobita panicked, clutching the toy camel, and galloped wildly into the glowing horizon. Stop right there, his mother shouted, chasing after him. But the glowing path stretched on, and no matter how far she ran, she couldn't catch him. Hours passed. At last, his mother stumbled back into the house, tripping over a loose cord. The tape snapped with a sharp rip. Instantly, the glowing path collapsed into darkness, leaving Nobita stranded in the horizon world, with no way back. Doraemon, what do we do now? Nobita's voice trembled. He looked around. The horizon stretched in every direction, but no doorway home remained. Even the anywhere door refused to function in this endless space. Doraemon clenched his paws, fear gnawing at him. If the tape's broken, we might be trapped here forever. The two of them sat in silence, their hearts sinking. For the first time, Nobita realized the gravity of their situation. The horizon, once a place of freedom, now felt like a prison with no exit. But just when hope seemed lost, a flicker of light glimmered in the distance like a lighthouse guiding lost ships at sea. Nobita gasped. Doraemon, look. They raced toward it with every ounce of strength they had left. And there, in the glow, stood Shizuka. She had been using her own roll of horizon tape in the bathroom, creating her own endless world. By pure chance, their paths crossed. Relief washed over them. They had found a way back. But before Nobita could express his gratitude, Shizuka frowned, cheeks flushing red. What are you doing here? She shouted, quickly chasing them away. After all, no girl wanted to be spied on while using Doraemon's gadgets in her private space. Nobita stumbled away, tears stinging his eyes. For him, every victory seemed to end in humiliation. Back at home, Nobita sat cross-legged on the tatami floor, sulking. His eyes glistened with unshed tears as he remembered Shizuka pushing him away. Why is it always like this? No matter how hard I try, everything ends in disaster. Doraemon watched quietly before reaching into his pouch. Nobita, maybe what you need isn't another adventure. Maybe what you need is to start over. He pulled out a strange device shaped like a glowing egg. Its surface pulsed faintly, as though alive. This, Doraemon explained, is the memory reset egg. It works the same way baby birds imprint on the first thing they see. If someone sits inside this egg for 3 minutes, then opens their eyes to see you, from that moment on, you'll always be imprinted in their memory as someone special. Nobita's heart pounded. His cheeks burned just imagining it. So, if Shizuka sits in the egg and I'm the first person she sees, she'll always like me. No matter what. Doraemon hesitated, his voice carrying a warning. Careful, Nobita. Using this isn't fair. You can't force someone's heart with a gadget. But, he sighed, handing it over. If you insist, at least promise you'll be responsible. Nobita clutched the egg with trembling hands. Don't worry. This time, I won't mess it up. His determination burned brighter than ever. The next day, they spotted Shizuka walking with Dekisugi. Nobita's jealousy flared, like a spark catching fire. This is my chance, he muttered, rushing toward her with the egg. But before he could explain, Giant's booming voice echoed from across the street. Hey, what's that giant egg? Looks tasty. He snatched it up, grinning wickedly. Sunio circled around, eyes gleaming with mischief. What's inside? A secret treasure. No, don't touch it, Nobita pleaded, lunging forward. But Giant had already pressed the button. With a hiss, the egg opened, sucking him inside, before sealing shut. Doraemon slapped his forehead. Oh no, Giant triggered it. Minutes ticked by. When the egg finally reopened, Giant stumbled out, dazed, only to lock eyes with Sanyo, a random passerby carrying groceries. Giant's pupils sparkled. His tough demeanor melted into an almost puppy-like devotion. As Sanyo, my everything, he declared dramatically, clasping his hands to his chest. The street erupted into laughter. Sunio nearly fell over, wheezing from the sight. Giants in love with Sanyo, humiliated and furious. Giant chased Nobita through the streets, convinced it was all his fault. Nobita darted left and right, the egg clutched tightly in his arms. He couldn't believe how quickly everything spiraled out of control. Panting heavily, he skidded to a stop in an alleyway. Doraemon caught up, sweat dripping down his furry face. Nobita, you see now, the egg isn't a toy. If misused, it can turn people's feelings upside down. But Nobita's eyes burned with stubborn fire. No, I can't give up. If Giant could imprint on Sanyo, then I can make Shizuka imprint on me. That night, Nobita set his plan in motion. He placed the egg carefully in his room and begged Doraemon to lure Shizuka over. Doraemon frowned, but reluctantly agreed. Summoning the transparent ring portal, Shizuka walked through it by accident and landed right inside the egg. Nobita's palms were sweaty. This is it. The moment that will change everything. As the 3 minutes ticked by, Nobita imagined Shizuka opening her eyes, smiling at him, and saying she'd always be by his side. His heart raced so fast, he could barely breathe. But fate, as always, had other plans. At the exact moment the egg opened, Dekisugi stumbled through the same portal tripping on a loose rug. He landed directly in front of Shizuka. Her eyes fluttered open. The first face she saw was his. Her lips curled into a bright smile. Dekisugi, she exclaimed warmly. Nobita froze, his dream crumbling like glass, shattering on stone. The room fell silent. Nobita's entire body stiffened as though lightning had struck him. He had waited, planned, and dreamed for this moment. Yet the first person Shizuka saw was not him, but Dekisugi. Her cheeks flushed a rosy pink. Dekisugi, you're here, she said softly, her eyes filled with warmth. Dekisugi blinked in confusion, clutching his books. Well, I didn't mean to, I just tripped. And, before he could finish, Shizuka leaned closer, her entire focus glued to him. Nobita's heart shattered. The sound of it seemed louder than Doraemon's gasp. No, Nobita whispered, voice breaking. That was supposed to be me. Doraemon clenched his paw against his forehead. Nobita, I warned you. You can't force someone's feelings with a gadget. And now he gestured helplessly at Shizuka and Dekisugi, who looked like they had been bound by invisible strings of fate. Nobita's knees buckled. Tears welled up in his eyes as he stared at the egg. It had betrayed him, or maybe, he realized bitterly, it had only revealed the truth. But things didn't stop there. Giant and Suneo, who had followed out of curiosity, peeked through the window just in time to see the scene. Suneo burst out laughing. Huh. Nobita tried to use a gadget to win Shizuka, and Dekisugi stole the spotlight. Classic. Giant, however, was still reeling from his own embarrassing imprint on Sanyo. He grabbed Nobita by the collar. You think this is funny? Huh. You ruined my life. And now you've ruined yours. Time to pay up. Nobita flailed helplessly. He didn't mean to. Please. Giant. Let me go. But Giant's fist swung high until suddenly, Shizuka turned around. Stop it. She cried, her voice sharp with authority. Everyone froze. Shizuka stood protectively in front of Dekisugi, glaring at Giant. For a moment, she seemed stronger, braver than ever before. Nobita felt the dagger twist deeper in his chest. Not only had the egg failed, now Shizuka was defending Dekisugi from his own mistakes. Doraemon quickly snatched the egg back, snapping it shut. Enough. This gadget is dangerous. From now on, it's off limits. He tucked it deep into his pouch, sealing the disaster away. But Nobita couldn't move. His small hands trembled, his breath ragged. For years, he had dreamed that one day Shizuka would see him as her hero. But no matter what he did or what gadgets he bought, it always ended the same. Shizuka glanced back at Nobita, her expression softening. Nobita, don't rely on tricks. If you want to be someone important, you have to try on your own. Her words were gentle, yet they stung more than any slap. Nobita forced a smile, nodding weakly. Yeah, you're right. But inside, his heart screamed. As the group dispersed, Nobita slumped against the wall, the weight of his failure pressing down on him. Doraemon placed a comforting paw on his shoulder. Nobita, one day, you'll understand. Shortcuts can't replace effort. Nobita bit. His lip is staring at the floor. He wanted to believe Doraemon, but in that moment, all he could feel was loss. Outside, the evening sun painted the world in orange and gold. But for Nobita, everything felt gray. The next morning, Nobita's alarm clock played louder than usual. But strangely, instead of groaning and rolling over, he sat up immediately, rubbing his eyes. His mother peeked into the room, shocked. Nobita, awake on time. Did the sun rise from the west today? Nobita blinked, still half asleep, but his body moved as if on autopilot. He brushed his teeth, washed his face, and even buttoned his shirt properly, all before his mind had fully caught up. Doraemon smirked knowingly. So the gadget worked. That special clock forces you to follow a strict schedule. No more snoozing. No more excuses. At first, Nobita felt proud. For once, he wasn't late. He stepped outside, humming happily, until he realized one horrifying detail. He had forgotten to put on his pants. Kids on the street burst into laughter, pointing at him. Nobita's face turned crimson as he scrambled back inside. Even when punctual, embarrassment still found him. Later that day, Suneo flaunted his shiny new wristwatch in front of Giant, bragging about how his father had just bought it. Look at the design. See the precision. Only the wealthy can afford something like this. He boasted. Giant snatched it. declaring he wanted to borrow it, leaving Suneo whining in defeat. When they spotted Nobita, they assumed he was late for school again. Huh, look at that loser running behind schedule, Giant sneered. But Nobita walked past calmly, even early for once, shocking them both. Yet Nobita's joy was short-lived. He noticed Shizuka looking uncharacteristically downcast. Shizuka, what's wrong? He asked gently. She sighed. Nothing. I just don't feel good today. To prove his devotion, Nobita blurted. If you jumped into a freezing lake, I'd follow you without hesitation. Shizuka's cheeks flushed pink at his earnestness. Really? Then, meet me after school at my house. Nobita's heart skipped a beat. Shizuka invited me over. He whispered, fists clenched in triumph. This was his chance. His date with destiny. But when the school bell rang and he dashed to Shizuka's home, what he found nearly made his jaw drop. Her house was overflowing. With cats. Dozens of tiny meowing furballs climbed curtains, toppled vases, and sprawled across her floor. Nobita froze. His mother's voice echoed in his mind. No pets allowed in this household. If she found out, he'd be doomed. Still, he couldn't resist. He scooped the kittens up, hiding them in his closet, praying no one would notice. Of course, his mother noticed immediately. She stormed upstairs, eyes blazing. Nobita, how many times have I told you? No animals in this house. Nobita trembled, clutching the kittens protectively. But, Mom, they're so cute. Please. No buts. She snapped. Get rid of them. Tears welled up in Nobita's eyes as he trudged out, carrying the mewing bundle. He tried giving them away, but every neighbor had an excuse. Already have pets. Allergic. Too busy. Rejection followed him at every door. At last, he left the kittens on a park bench, guilt gnawing at him. But before he could walk away, a snarling stray dog lunged at them. The kittens squealed in terror. Nobita's heart clenched. He couldn't abandon them. Scooping them into his arms, he bolted down the street, legs burning, the dog snapping at his heels. Breathless, he called out, Doraemon, help. Doraemon arrived with his anywhere door, whisking them into the sky. The kittens clung to Nobita's shirt as they soared above rooftops. Safe for the moment, but still with no solution, they sat on a rooftop, staring at the kittens huddled in Nobita's lap. Nobita whispered, I can't throw them away, but I can't keep them either. What do I do? His voice cracked with despair. Doraemon's eyes softened. Then he brightened. Wait, I have an idea. These kittens don't have to be abandoned. They can be useful. I feed them with tiny time collars. At certain hours, they'll go from house to house, catching mice, earning food, and helping families. In return, they'll always have care. Nobita gasped, eyes wide. That's brilliant. One by one, Doraemon fastened the little clocks around the kittens' necks. Immediately, they perked up, tails swishing proudly. When the clock struck the hour, they marched in a line, sleeping under doors, hunting mice like professional exterminators. Nobita watched in awe as even his mother softened. Maybe they aren't so useless after all, she admitted reluctantly. For a moment, it seemed like everything had worked out. But Nobita, as always, would soon discover that even the cleverest gadgets had consequences. At first, Doraemon's time collar system worked flawlessly. The kittens became tiny heroes of the neighborhood, darting from house to house, clearing out mice with military precision. Every family smiled with gratitude, and Nobita beamed with pride. See, Mom, they are not just pets, they are protectors. But trouble always had a way of finding Nobita. One afternoon, Giant swaggered past, his eyes narrowing at the glimmering clocks around the kittens' necks. Those look valuable. He reached down, unclipped one, and strapped it to his own wrist. Instantly, the clock beeped, and his body stiffened. His legs moved on their own. What? What the? He yelped, marking like a zombie straight toward Nobita's house. Nobita gasped. Oh no. The clock thinks Giant is part of the work crew. Giant burst through the door, knocking furniture aside, and began chasing mice under Nobita's cupboards. Nobita's mother shrieked. Why is Giant on all fours in my kitchen? Nobita had no answer. Meanwhile, the kitten system was unraveling. Their schedules synced, sending all of them rushing into the same house at once. Imagine 20 kittens and one enormous giant tearing through the rooms, chasing rodents in perfect unison. Plates shattered, curtains fell, Nobita's mom fainted, and then came the chaos Nobita dreaded most. Shizuka arrived just in time to witness the spectacle. She stared at Giant meowing like a cat, claws out, while kittens leapt across the walls like ninjas. Nobita's face turned beet red. Shizuka, I can explain. But before he could, Doraemon pulled out his anywhere door to reset the mess. The kittens darted through. Giant stumbled behind them. And in the confusion, the clock collars began to malfunction. Instead of following mice, they began syncing to Nobita's body clock. Now, every kitten copied Nobita's habits: oversleeping, tripping, lazing around, and whining. The once mighty army of mouse catchers collapsed into a pile of yawning, clumsy furballs. Giant sprawled across the floor, groaning. Why do I feel so useless? Like Nobita. Doraemon slapped his forehead. Great. Now I've multiplied Nobita's bad habits 20 times over. The situation only spiraled further. Suneo wandered in, curious about the noise, only to trip on the pile of kittens. I shrieked. My outfit. It's covered in fur. The kittens, copying Nobita's laziness, rolled around and tangled him up completely. The scene was pandemonium. Giant, crawling on all fours, hissing at shadows. Sunio, trapped under kittens. Shizuka, pinching her nose at the smell of broken fish cans. Nobita's mother, storming upstairs with a broom, ready to swing. And Nobita. He clutched his head, screaming. Why does every gadget turn into a nightmare? Doraemon, acting quickly, reset the collars, gathering the kittens into an orderly line. One by one, they marched out the anywhere door, disappearing back into their work routine. Giant collapsed, exhausted. Sonia zulked, and Nobita fell flat on the floor, groaning. For a brief, blissful silence, peace returned, until the clock collars beeped in unison, and from the sky above, a massive swarm of stray cats appeared, drawn by the system's signal. Hundreds of glowing-eyed cats poured down like an army, meowing in unison. The ground shook with their arrival. Nobita froze. Doraemon dropped his gadget bag in horror. Shizuka clutched her mouth. Giant whispered, trembling. Worry. Don't. The screen would fade to black there, leaving the audience hanging, because in Nobita's world, when one gadget ends, another disaster always begins.